Presenting on behalf of the Indiana County Solar Co-op, we have Henry McKay. Henry has helped us now with 3 different solar co-ops in Indiana County. The first one was, at the time, the largest solar co-op in all of Pennsylvania, and that's including Philadelphia and Pittsburgh too. So pretty impressive. Henry McKay is the PA program director for Solar United Neighbors, he has his booth back there. So after his presentation, if you have any questions about potentially putting solar on your home or business, or if you have any interest in EV chargers, definitely make sure to connect with Henry. Without further ado, we have Henry McKay.
Thank you, Molly. Hi, everyone. As Molly said, I'm Henry McKay. I'm the Pennsylvania Program Director of Solar United Neighbors, and I'm here to talk about going solar in Indiana County through this program that we're running called the Indiana County Solar Co-op. And so just real quick, who we are, Solar United Neighbors. We are a national nonprofit organization. We have our headquarters in DC, but then we have programs in many states around the country. So I run our Pennsylvania program from Pittsburgh, and we are here to help people go solar, join together, and fight for their energy rights. We're also a vendor-neutral nonprofit. So we're not a solar installer ourselves. We're kind of your consumer advocate, and we don't have any special relationships with solar installers. So we want to help you make an informed decision about going solar, with whatever company you choose, and have you be able to trust the information you're getting from us. And this solar co-op we're running here in Indiana County, we're working with some local partners who I'd like to thank. Of course, the Indiana County Sustainable Economic Development Task Force has been an amazing partner for us and enabled us to, come to Indiana County and help a lot of people go solar. I'll talk a little bit more about the importance of the task force later, but there's not a lot of communities like this that are organized in this way, trying to envision a sustainable future for themselves, and especially not a lot of communities in rural areas who are doing it. So it really is something special here. And it gives you, I think it will give you an edge with all of the new federal money that will soon be raining down on us, thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act and that infrastructure bill from last year. We're also partnered with the Indiana County Conservation District and also the Indiana County Farm Bureau, who are helping us reach more people about going solar in this community. So why go solar in the first place at all? Of course, everybody knows it's clean energy, it's pollution-free energy, but really one of the most popular reasons anyone would do this on their home or on their business is to save money. It's to slash your electricity bills. You're pre-buying 25 to 30 years worth of electricity at a much lower cost than you'd be able to buy it from your electric company. You're also adding a little bit of value to your property. There's good evidence that shows that a home with solar sells for more than a home without solar. You're adding this useful money-saving asset onto the house. And you're also protecting yourself from rising utility costs. We've all seen electricity prices go up dramatically this past year. Really, as long as our electricity system is primarily based on burning fuels that you have to pump out of the ground or mine out of the ground and refine and transport and burn, it's always going to have volatile prices. We're energy independent here in Pennsylvania, United States. We make more energy than we use, but it hasn't protected us from price volatility because, when you're selling, natural gas or something that's a globally traded commodity, what happens in Ukraine, what happens in OPEC, what happens in all these places around the world affects the price we pay here. So the only real protection against that kind of price volatility is solar panel. Nobody can get between you, your solar panel, and the sun. And the point of the solar co-op is to make it easy to go solar and also to help you get a good price on it as well. So the way the solar co-op works, so this is, as I said, a nonprofit vendor-neutral program, and anyone in Indiana County who owns their property where they want to put solar can join for free. It doesn't obligate you to go solar, it just gives you the option of going solar with the co-op's special group pricing deal and getting a lot of support from us throughout the process. So we're now in the recruitment phase. We're signing people up to join this. We'll be recruiting until the end of January. We've also just finished the installer selection process, so that the members who joined early on participated in the selection committee and helped choose one company to through a competitive bidding process to offer a particular price and a particular equipment deal to everybody in the co-op. You still have a choice of panels and inverters you can choose, but you get a special deal that you can only get within the co-op. And now that the installer is selected, people can still join the co-op, and you get access. You start getting in touch with the installer. They create a customized solar proposal for you. Working with you to decide how much you want to spend on solar, how much solar you want to install, how much of your energy you want to offset. Maybe whether you want to add an electric vehicle charger to that as well. Maybe you want to add battery backup, so you have power when there's power outages. But everyone's signing contracts at this group rate, and then. Or deciding to not sign a contract, or getting a bid from another company and comparing it and going with them. And that's all the same to us. We just want you to be able to make a really informed, confident decision about it. And then once everybody goes solar in the co-op, once it wraps up, which we expect will happen in the first half of next year, then we celebrate and we talk about what's next for the solar movement, and share pictures of your solar installations. So just to talk a little bit about how residential solar installation works, or small commercial as well. So the first thing you might notice here is we're still connected to the electrical grid. So most people, when they go solar, they don't go off grid. They still remain a customer of the utility. They're still tied to the grid. That means, one, they always have power, in the night, in the winter, but it also lets you use the grid like a battery. So in the summer, you're going to be generating more energy than you need, probably. You're going to use whatever you need, and then the extra is going to go out through your electric meter. Your meter is going to count that exported energy. It's going to go back out to the grid, and your utility is going to sell it to your neighbors, probably at full cost. And then you're going to get a credit on your electric bill for all those kilowatt hours of energy you exported. You'll build up a bank of these credits on your bill. And then, maybe in the winter, you're probably not generating as much energy you need with your solar. And so you can buy that extra energy you need from the utility. But if you built up that bank of credits, you can spend down those credits instead of spending money. And so this is called net metering, because you're basically being billed on the net between what you export and what you import from the utility. And so you can cover a year's worth of energy needs from solar, even though it's not evenly sunny all year. You're using the grid like a battery. And net metering is really important to make rooftop solar economical, to make sure you get a fair return on your investment. And we actually have really excellent net metering in Pennsylvania. There's a lot of reasons we're not thought of as a great state for solar, but we have better net metering than many states you would think of as great states for solar. Arizona doesn't have net metering anymore. Nevada briefly killed their net metering program before public outcry brought it back. But we have great net metering in Pennsylvania, and it's worth taking advantage of. And just to mention, we talk about rooftop solar, but it doesn't always have to go on the roof. And if you have the space for it, you can put it in the ground. That means you have to, maybe your roof is too old, maybe your roof is shady. You don't have to worry about those roof issues, and you put it on the ground. It tends to be a little more expensive because there's concrete pouring and there's trenching that needs to be done, but also can be a little more productive because it stays cooler. There's more air circulation that runs around it. Cool solar panels make more power than hot solar panels. And you can get them oriented just right to maximize the amount of sunshine. Now, the specific price offered to co-op members is only available to 2 co-op members. It's it's an exclusive deal offered from this installer, who I should mention is Groundhog Solar, by the way. They served the past rounds of the Indiana County Solar Co-op to great success, and they were able to sign a lot of contracts with members, and they won this round as well. So they're the co-op's installer. But just some example pricing to kind of put you in the ballpark. This is based on $2.57 a watt. So first thing I want to let you know, when you're comparing bids from different solar companies, really helps to boil it down to dollars per watt. Take the total number of watts they are offering to install on your home and the total price, divide price by wattage, and you get dollars per watt. And you probably don't want to be paying much more than $3 a watt these days. And you can usually get a price that's much lower than that. So the average price, winning price of all of our Pennsylvania solar co-ops is $2.57 a watt. often companies you find on Facebook or on the internet, often out-of-state companies will be, kind of hide what the full price is behind some financing offers and things like that. And you end up, paying like $4 plus a watt, which is like 2015 prices. You shouldn't be paying that anymore these days. So for a average size 10 kilowatt system, the upfront cost at that price is $25,000. You get now the 30% federal tax credit back. It used to be 26, so it's going to go down to 22 next year, but thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act that just passed about a month ago, it's now back up to 30 for 10 years, which is fantastic. So you get that 30% off, so your net cost is about $18,000, and then you start saving money with lower electric bills. And then in this estimate here, by the end of by year 25, you have a net profit of almost $40,000 from that 10 kilowatt system. So you're saving a lot of money on electric bills, and you're also earning some money from these SRECs, solar renewable energy credits. So this is separate from the electricity you generate. Every time you generate 1,000 kilowatt hours of energy with your solar, you earn an SREC. And this is a credit that has a cash value. It's bought and sold on a market. Often the utilities are buying them because they have to meet certain legal requirements to get a certain amount of energy from solar, and they can meet that requirement by buying your SRECs. So it's another revenue source. They're around $40 right now, I think. They're not super valuable in Pennsylvania because we have very modest solar goals in Pennsylvania. That's up to the legislature to change. Now, what does that look like on your electric bill? So this is actually a Penelec, a bill from an actual Penelec solar homeowner. I think they're here in Indiana County. And you can see the bill's a little different than yours might look. So you have delivered, they have this particular month, they got 725 kilowatts. They bought from the utility. They sent almost the same amount, 718, back from their home to the utility. And so they have this is a February bill. So they entered the month with 1,100 kilowatt hours in their bank that they had generated but not yet used in past months. They added 718, they deposited 725, and they still ended up, they barely reduced their bank, they still have a bank. And this is in February and March when it's not very sunny at all. So they still haven't depleted their bank, and they're basically avoiding all but the fixed customer charge of their electric bill, which is about $11 at the time of when we took the screenshot. So you can see this pretty dramatic electric reductions, and you'd see similar things in the summer as well. Now, you don't have to pay cash for your solar. That's the way you're going to maximize the savings of it, but you do have to then pay all this money up front. So a lot of people will finance. You can use any kind of personal secured or unsecured loan. There are dedicated solar loans out there. You can use your home equity line of credit. Solar installers often offer their own loans. Although it really behooves you to shop around because those installer loans aren't always the most attractive interest rates, or sometimes the interest rate looks great, but the fees are really high. If you're a member of one of our solar co-ops, you get access to special financing from the Clean Energy Co-op. They have competitive interest rates, but the best part is they have very low fees. It's like a couple $100 as opposed to a percentage of the amount borrowed. So that can be a good way to make this affordable for people as well. We have a whole page on financing on our website. The website is a wealth of information about solar. You go to solarunitedneighbors.org/financing. You can learn more about your financing options. And then, as I mentioned before, you can also add an electric vehicle charger with solar. And there's not surprisingly, there's a huge overlap between people who are going solar and people who are driving electric. And there's a lot of benefits to driving electric, and there's a lot of extra benefits to driving electric when you're solar powered. So I found this recent analysis from February of this month done by the Atlas Public Policy Group. They were comparing the lifetime ownership costs of electric vehicles versus similar gas-powered vehicles. So on the left, you see an example here. There's the electric Volkswagen ID4 compared to the Honda CR-V, so smaller SUV kind of car. And you can see, while this blue, the purchase price of the Volkswagen, the electric car, is more expensive. than the Honda, the overall lifetime costs are about 15% lower. And that's because your fuel costs are lower and your maintenance costs are lower. EVs have fewer moving parts, there's less maintenance going on. Consumer Reports actually estimated this, people have said that for a long time, EVs are cheaper to maintain than gas cars, but now we actually have a lot of data to prove that, now that there's a lot more EVs out there driving. Consumer Reports measured this, they saw EV drivers are spending about half of what gas drivers spend on maintenance. Same with the truck, the pickup truck. So you have that new Ford F-150 Lightning that's been coming out compared to the traditional gas-powered Ford F-150. Even though it's a very expensive car, it's cheaper to own overall than the gas-powered Ford F-150 because your fuel savings and your maintenance savings. And this doesn't even take into account if you're charging, most of your charging is done at home, somewhere around 80%, 90% of your charging is done at home. That's another benefit of charging at home is you have a gas station at your house to go somewhere else to get fuel. This doesn't even take into account if you have solar, so making your electricity even more cheaper. So that would only shrink this fuel bar for the EVs and make it even cheaper to own an electric car than a gas-powered car. And I think right after me is going to be the EV car show, is that right? Yeah, so you can look at some up close. There's some incentive for electric vehicle chargers. There's a federal EV tax credit for the car itself. It's $7,500, but now, unlike before, it no longer reduces the more of that particular car that are sold. So it used to be the popular ones like Teslas and things like that. It's really hard to get the tax credit because they depleted their share of the tax credit really early on. But now it doesn't reduce like that. And there's also now a separate, I think, $4,000 tax credit for used EVs that lower income households can use as well. A lot more used EVs entering the market now. You can also, through the federal tax credit, you can save up to $1,000 or about half the cost of a level 2 EV charger at your home. Level 2 is the kind that you're most likely to install at home. Level 1 is just plugging into the wall. It's a very slow trickle charge. Level 2 is the kind of thing where you could charge overnight. It uses that 220 volt outlet used for like a dryer, the heavier duty electrical outlet. And then level 3 is the fast charging that are very expensive, very fast, that you see at like a destination, like an office building in Rehearsed. I also want to mention, there's a lot of activity, solar activity in the area now, and it's not all us. So our partners at the Pennsylvania Solar Center have also started running this Get Solar initiative, and it's called Galvanizing the Energy Transition. And Indiana Borough and White Township are participating in this. And this is to help especially larger non-residential projects, commercial projects, nonprofit projects through the solar process, estimating costs and savings, finding a reputable company to do the installation, and then holding their hand throughout that whole process. And also finding any kind of financing that you might need to pay for the project. If you go to the PA Solar Center's website, which I've listed up here, you can learn more about that. I think they're in the recruitment phase now, so they're looking for projects in the area who are interested in participating in Get Solar and getting solar that way. In our solar co-op, we're mostly focused on residential, but we often have small businesses join as well, or even nonprofits, which are now eligible for the tax credit thanks to the Inflation Reduction Act. So if you're a tax-exempt entity, local government, church, nonprofit, you can now benefit from the tax credit and you couldn't in the past. I want to talk a little bit more about Inflation Reduction Act because it has a lot of other interesting opportunities for a place like Indiana County that are worth exploring. So there's that solar tax credit you can get as a homeowner, is 30%. It's the same for non-residential properties as well. But that non-residential version of the tax credit has some interesting additional features. And namely, you can get an extra 10% if the project is located in what's called an energy community. And the way they define an energy community, either it's a brownfield or there's a brownfield nearby, so a contaminated former industrial site, an area with significant employment or tax revenue coming from coal, oil, or gas. I think it's mining, it's extraction, it's refining, and it's energy generation as well. Or an area where a coal mine closed since 2000 or a coal-fired power plant closed since 2000. So they haven't, fleshed out exactly how you're going to apply for this money and get eligible for this additional 10%. But it's the kind of thing that looks like Indiana County is really well poised to take advantage of. Not only because you probably meet, at least a couple of these factors, but also you have the task force here who has all of the stakeholders, in the same room together and is able to pounce on opportunities like this, has plans, has intention, has the right people in the room. So I think you're really well poised to take advantage of, adders like this. You can also get an additional 10% if your project uses domestically sourced materials, so domestically made solar panels. An additional 10% if you're serving a low-income community. So you can get higher than 50% tax credit if you're able to stack all these additional adders, and it can make those projects really attractive. And then there's, separate from just going solar in particular, there's this whole new suite of federal funding opportunities that are directed particularly at energy communities. Those have come from the infrastructure bill passed last year, as well as the Inflation Reduction Act. The Department of Energy is flush with cash now and is looking for ways, to get money out directly to communities, to do energy transition planning, to embrace renewable energy, make sure they have can train people for all the jobs we need to do this. So if you go to energycommunities.gov, that's kind of the clearinghouse of all the different grant and financing opportunities that are coming out of the federal government for energy communities. So if you want to learn more about the Indiana County Solar Co-op, or you want to talk about solar or EVs or batteries, you can come find me at the yellow tablecloth over here in the corner. I'll be hanging around for a little bit. Or you can visit our website, solarunitedneighbors.org/Indiana County. That's where you can join the co-op for free. And you can sign up for our upcoming events. The next event we have will be a more in-depth version of this presentation I just gave, our Solar 101 webinar. It'll be virtual on Zoom, and it's on Wednesday, October 12th at noon. So you can do it on your lunch break. And you can register for that event at the co-op website, solarunitedneighbors.org/Indiana County. And please tell your friends about this. The more people going solar, the better. I have yard signs if you want to take a yard sign. I have some flyers. If you want to take some flyers and share them with your neighbors. Any questions for me? Yeah. Oh, yes.
Thank you. I've been following your progress for a while now. Our home does not have. Okay. Our home couldn't qualify, but at the time you mentioned something about, I want to say, distributed solar energy.
Community solar.
Community solar.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Has there been any progress on that in the last couple of years?
Well, there's no law passed, so you could say there's been progress. There's been a growing support for it, but with the question about community solar is kind of an alternative to rooftop solar. So it's where you build a large solar array, often out in the field somewhere, and a lot of people in the area can subscribe to a share of it, and then they get their electric bill offset proportional to the share. And then they pay a subscription fee. So you lower your bill, your solar power, you're supporting a local project. And that's what you can do if you're a renter, if your roof is too shady. So it's a great option to help more people benefit from solar. But our legislature so far has refused to pass this despite growing bipartisan support on the issue. So if you want to talk about community solar, legislative activity, you can come talk to me as well afterwards. Yes, sir.
How does a nonprofit benefit? You mentioned churches and other nonprofits. They're not paying taxes. How do they benefit from all of this?
So what the Inflation Reduction Act enabled was direct pay for tax-exempt entities with a tax credit, which means you just get a check. Rather than getting a discount on your taxes, you just get a check for the equivalent amount.
A few comments about the life cycle of a solar panel, like how long they last, if they're placed. Is it more like the computer where you go from 1G to 5G?
Yeah, very good question. So solar panel warranties are now 25 to 30 years. So that's how long they'll last and still be under warranty. They're not going to just break after that. They'll just be out of warranty, and it might be, you know, more cost effective to buy whatever the new, you know, model solar panel is out there. But it's a long-term investment. You know, it's on your house. It doesn't have any moving parts, so it's a very low maintenance, but it's on your house working for you for decades. And they are recyclable. The solar panels themselves are recyclable. It's mostly silicon and glass and aluminum with it recyclable with smaller amounts of other minerals, but it's technically recyclable. What the challenge is building industry to recycle these at a reasonable cost. And that's what we're starting to figure out, what our solar industry is starting to figure out as this technology scales up and more people buy it. But yeah, they're recyclable.
Oh.
So I know the Pittsburgh region is in competition with Seattle as far as the most rainy, overcast weather in the country. I know it would help me a lot to see some real world examples of installations that have already happened. Do you have anything compiled like that?
Yeah, so on our website, we have a bunch of solar stories from around Pennsylvania, which basically mostly homeowners who've gone solar and talk about why they did it. There are about, I believe, 40,000 solar installations around Pennsylvania, so it's already, you know, very well established industry. You have, you know, major institutions like Crayola is solar powered. The IKEA store outside of Pittsburgh is solar powered. You know, the Center County Correctional Facility is solar powered. Falling Water just went solar powered. They didn't put it on the building itself, they put it nearby. And yeah, we are a really cloudy area, but it's not too cloudy to make solar work. The technology is good enough now that you have roughly 8 to 12 year payback period for solar here. And just as an example, you know, Germany for a long time had a lot more solar power than we did. They're far cloudier than we are. They are Alaska levels of sunshine. But they were able to really benefit from the technology and put a lot of solar up. We've since well overtaken them, but it works here.
I can tell you that I have solar on my house and I have not paid an electric bill, and I make more solar power every year than but basically what you do is you need for electricity and then design your system to match what you've used in the past. So it depends on how you build your solar system, how many panels. So there's that little $10 charge a month. So at the end of the year, because I've made more than I've used, they deduct that off my bill. So last month, I think I had a 6 cent. So Pennsylvania definitely can use solar.
Yeah, are there any other solar homeowners who want to identify themselves in here?
Yeah, I have a rather large system. It's about 5 times the size that usually goes on because it's a ground mounted system. And the system is sized for the sunlight in our part of the country, in our part of the county. And with reliable installer, we're going to get the system sized to on the economics around the system. And my system in turn is achieving reduction of the system on the basis that I paid for it. Something in other parts of the country might have more sun, but the solar panels start to lose efficiency at higher temperatures. So if you're in Nevada or Arizona and you're getting 120-degree temperatures, you're not going to make that much power on that day. If you're in some of those states, you get a lot, you don't get any rain, but you get a lot of dust, and that inhibits the panels. Here, we don't worry about cleaning the panels, you get enough rain off, and you're back in business. So you might have months that don't make an estimate, but over the course of the year, the installers that we dealt with pretty good at designing the system.
Other questions? Okay, we'll come back to you.
I understand that there was money included in this act for installing charging systems for EV. You know if there's any organized effort going on anywhere to do that?
So installing electric vehicle chargers? Yeah, so the Pennsylvania Turnpike is looking into this, and I think there's the Commonwealth government has plans to finance the installation of along transportation corridors. There's a lot of federal and state initiatives that I'm not super familiar with, but there's also a lot that counties and local governments can do to also make sure they're building out their own charging infrastructure. And I think this is a great opportunity to work with electric utilities and rural electric co-ops like REA, because for years and years they've seen steady decline in demand for their product, electricity, as our appliances and everything get more efficient, as more as more people go solar as well. But the only source of load and therefore revenue growth for them comes from vehicles now. They can start selling fuel for vehicles, and so they have an incentive to engage on that, and also electrifying other things in your home, your HVAC, your cooking, things like that.
Can you make a quick comparison between a tracking solar panel system versus a fixed panel system?
Yeah, so the sun moves through the sky throughout the day, so there's benefits to having your solar panel track the sun throughout the day, and maybe even throughout the year as it's higher and lower in the sky. You'll often see large-scale solar installations that have tracking capabilities built in. But it's really rare at small residential scale because you're also adding costs with that tracking system. It's more expensive to build. It's also something that now has moving parts that move every day. So there's more maintenance issues that come with it. And you really need to maximize the benefits by installing a location where you can see almost horizon to horizon. So where there's a lot of forest, where there's a lot of topography, it makes less sense. So it's really rare at the residential scale, but it does make sense like a big solar field out in a desert.
I just want to make actually one comment for that one. I know Millersburg University had a big project, net zero, and as a demonstration, they put a panel with a solar tracker in front of it, and I think they were actually seeing that panel get like 20 or 30% more energy, but the cost to install that, especially on its own pedestal and the tracker and like that, the payoff isn't line up with what the system on the roof. I just want to comment though, because somebody had a question about the EV charger. I know, especially with, I don't know how much of the Infrastructure Act was there, but as well as the what they might include with the Inflation Reduction Act. But I know there's a lot of money for federal for EV chargers, and are most likely to be setting up like a network, like along the highway. So I think PA is already like that. But there's also there's still an existing a tax credit for the fuel infrastructure, so you can get like a 30% tax credit for that. I have to double check the numbers, but DEP I know also had their driving PA forward program, and they were offering a 90% rebate, government-owned EV charger, up to a 70% rebate for non-government EV charger. We're trying to get something going in our locality. We couldn't get something in the region. And if you're a business and you get a 30% tax credit from federal government, you can get a 7% rebate from DEP. You could get an EV charger installed almost for free. And now you're creating an amenity. You're creating a reason for someone to drive it. I drive a plug-in electric hybrid. I will go to a place where I know I can plug in. So it's creating almost you're creating a reason for people to come there, and for a reason for me to shop there a little bit longer because I know I'm going to charge up even. So there are some stuff out there, and I don't know where it's at right now, but DEP, Pennsylvania DEP had a great program going too.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. And there's benefits to being an early adopter as well. When people start to learn, you're one of the public EV charging stations in the community, and that you become a destination for people.
I wanted to just say that even though I don't have solar at my home, our church does. And to go back to that question about, is it worth it here? Our church says, oh yes. I'm very happy to see negative electric bills most months. So, and the other, I did have a question too. You had a slide about the tax credits for brownfields and things like that in Indiana County. And I was wondering, from my plain, my private citizen perspective here, is there any kind of cooperation between that and what CPACE? I mean, is there any way to leverage both of those with each other? I just had no idea. I thought I'd ask.
I think the Get Solar program is a good example of that, because on the application for the Get Solar program, they even include a page that with CPACE.
Right, yeah, so you can combine any kind of financing like CPACE with the tax credit. So the tax credit lowers the total cost of that investment for you, and then the financing spreads it out over time. So they work together nicely.
Do you have any other questions? All right, this will be our last question.
Hi, any idea how well domestic panel producers are in position versus foreign panel producers? Are we going to be subsidizing 90% foreign to 10% domestic?
Well, the Inflation Reduction Act was really geared towards creating a lot of incentives in different directions, like push and pull incentives to direct more manufacturing here. So, things like the tax credit, where you can get a larger tax credit using domestic materials or increased demand for domestic products. And then there's also a lot of tax credits for manufacturing, for manufacturing the silicon ingots, the wafers that they slice them into, the panels themselves, assembling the panels, so kind of every component along the way. So they really are trying to hit this from both sides. And we do still have something of a solar manufacturing industry in this country. So, it didn't all go to China and Korea and Malaysia. One example is First Solar in Ohio, which is the largest solar manufacturer in the country. I think they're out of Toledo. They make the thin film solar panels that are often used at large scale sites, large scale solar installations. So yes, I think it's not gonna happen overnight, but we're gonna see a lot more manufacturing happening domestically and finally in solar.
Just because,
I can be really loud. All right. I apologize if I missed this, but are there any legal challenges? And I actually know the answer to this, but is there any legal challenges to have a municipal level solar co-op that by which it's almost codified that you are participating in a solar co-op? And I'm thinking into the future, maybe not right now, maybe the co-op has 50 different people participating, but could that be something that could happen?
So there are municipalities that run their own kind of solar co-op style solarized programs, they're called. So Philadelphia is the only example in Pennsylvania that does this. They have solarized Philly, they call it. So they do something similar to a solar co-op does, try to lower the costs, lower the information barriers, and just get a ton of people to sign up. And they've been able to put a ton of solar up that way.
They've basically taken like what we're talking about here.
Right, and it's mostly a promotion thing that they're doing. They're using their megaphone to get people excited about solar. There's other things the local governments can do. They can make the permitting easy. So Indiana Borough has adopted Soul Smart certification, meaning it's easy to permit solar here. You can give tax exemptions, so you're not paying additional property tax when you're solar, when you go solar. Yeah, so there's other things municipalities can do beyond solar co-op style thing.